this town hall meeting of the Council Bluffs Community School District Board of Directors. Let the record show that all the board members are present, with the exception of board member Kyle McGlade and Troy Arthur. First, we have approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move approval of our agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the motion to approve our agenda for the town hall meeting carries. Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for the second of two town hall meetings for the Council Bluffs Community School District Board of Directors. We're pleased to have members of the school community here tonight to our newly remodeled Kern Middle School. As Superintendent Dr. Vicki Murillo provides an update on the district's strategic goals, she and her team will also share a summary of the input received by staff, parents, and community members in the recent survey that was used to collect input on our strategic goals. After that presentation, school board members, along with Dr. Murillo and her team, will respond to questions that are submitted during the meeting. And we have just a couple of members of the community that I see here tonight, and encourage you to jot down some questions during the presentation, and we will take time to respond to those at the end of the meeting. Tonight's town hall will be video recorded and posted to the district website for the public to view afterwards. So as much as is possible, we will try and ask the questions into the microphone so that everyone at home can hear those, as well as all of the responses. We'll do our best to respond to all of the questions, and if we're not able to get to all of those tonight, I don't think that will be a problem, but in case that does happen, we will add those to the Q&A section on the district's website that we used for the first town hall. So before we begin, I'll just make a few introductions. My name is Chris LaFurla. I'm the board president. Tonight with us is board vice president, Mr. Dave Kazire, and then board members Dr. Jill Ogres, John Minchall, and Jill Shudak. And as I mentioned before, Troy Arthur and Kyle McGlade are not here tonight. Also with us is Superintendent Dr. Vicki Murillo, and members of Dr. Murillo's team who will be presenting tonight: Dr. Corey Worthman, Chief Academic Officer, Mr. Dean Wilson, Chief Financial Officer, and Mr. Tim Hamilton, Chief of Student and Family Learning, Family Services. Yeah, Student Family Services. We also have several other members of Dr. Murillo's team here at the meeting tonight. So thank you all for being here, and I will turn it over to Dr. Murillo.
Thank you, Mr. LaFurla.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to scooch right over here. And is this on so you can hear it? Yeah, perfect, perfect. Well, welcome, everyone. Really excited to have you here this evening. And I'm going to walk through the first part of this slide presentation. And were we taking these off? They told me I could take it off. They're giving me a head nod. So we're going to walk through a presentation for you this evening. And really, we've been doing some work with our 4 strategic goals. And our 4 strategic goals have been in place. This is now year 4 for them. We have, let me go ahead and move over there for you. The goals center around improving academic achievement, guaranteeing all graduates are future ready, ensuring all of our district buildings provide an excellent learning environment, and improving the social and emotional wellness of students through student support and professional development. And what we wanted to know and really get a good feedback from our community, our staff, and our parents, we used the Thought Exchange survey. And what that survey really does is we ask 4 critical questions that really center around our 4 goals and looking for feedback on those 4 questions. And we really wanted to hear where there are areas we could make improvement, where did you really believe our focus should be, and how we could take your feedback and then apply it to the goals as we have to really revisit them, rework them. We're really always will have an academic achievement goal. And one of the things that we've worked really hard on is our Diploma +1 pathways, and we're in year 2 of those. And you'll see in the feedback that we got that parents were asking even more questions and about communication around those. future-ready kind of Diploma +1 pathways. And the importance of this is for us to really see if these are the 4 goals we should keep, or should we be looking and revisiting those and maybe leaving one off, keeping all 4 on, and what would be our next steps. So we appreciate the feedback, and if you gave feedback to that survey, it was a little lengthy, but if you gave feedback, we really appreciate that. So Dr. Borthman is going to take the first 2 goals, and following him, Mr. Wilson will talk about the facilities, and then Mr. Hamilton will put a caboose on that, our strategic goals, with talking about the thought exchange around social and emotional. So Dr. Borthman? And I forgot one other thing. I apologize. No, don't go away, Dr. Borthman. Board members, if you want to see where you don't have to turn, we did mark the rows in front for you. So if you'd like to do that, or you can turn around in your chairs, either way. My apologies.
Thank you, Dr. Merlo. The first question that we asked our community and our parents was really around offering additional strategies that we could employ to improve student achievement. And on this question, we had over 500 individual participants. Of those 500 participants, about 150 were staff and about 400 were parents. And collectively, they shared about 400 unique thoughts. And through the Thought Exchange platform, those thoughts are able to be rated by other participants in the Thought Exchange. And that happened over 8,000 times. So there was a lot of traction on the first question. And throughout the Thought Exchange, after it closed, we then went back and the Thought Exchange themed them according to those comments that were most relevant and most frequent and themes that occurred throughout multiple comments. So we were able to get some general ideas around what was important to both parents and staff members. And so we're going to share those themes with you tonight, and then some of the top comments under each theme. So one of the themes that emerged for Goal 1 was around parent communication and engagement. And some of the thoughts around this were encouraging parents and teachers to communicate with each other more frequently. Some commented around the engagement of parent involvement in the schools or teacher contact to when parents need feedback. And we've realized that communication is probably one of those areas that we will always continue to improve on. It's probably one of the things that I think in most organizations they strive to continue to make strides on and make sure that all stakeholders feel like they're communicated with regularly. The second one was around student discipline and bullying. We were somewhat surprised that this came up in student achievement, but it did, and so we certainly wanted to be transparent about that. One of the most frequent comments was made, most frequently rated comments was regarding bullying. And the second one was really around code of conduct. And Mr. Hamilton will talk a little bit more about those when he talks about goal 4. The third theme was really around feedback to students and the use of grades to communicate with families about student progress in courses. Some of those were around grading policy, others were around the use of PowerSchool to communicate with families. As you know, grading is a topic that we have worked on in the school district almost every year, at least since I've been here the last 10 years. And it continues to provide an opportunity for us to even better communicate with our families about how we provide feedback on student progress. The last one was really around curricular offerings and student support. And this is where parents and families, as well as staff members, offered some ideas for things that they would like to see us to enhance our educational program within the school district. One of those comments that was made most frequently was around trades education. And as you may know, we opened a $2.5 million trades facility last year at both Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson High Schools, thanks to the generous support of the Rossick Foundation, and really bolstered our enrollment in those programs to over 300 kids annually. Other comments were made about increasing advanced classes. And so that's one of the things that we've really been committed to over the past 3 years, is making sure that students have even greater opportunities to take classes at Iowa Western Community College or even in our own high schools through our concurrent enrollment and advanced placement programs. Our second goal was around making sure that all students are future ready. And so we asked participants to give us specific feedback on what other things we should be thinking of to make sure that students can graduate with a high school diploma and a second credential. And about half as many people responded to the second question as did the first one, about 240 participants, sharing 142 thoughts and almost 2,800 ratings. But there were some similar themes that were shared between Goal 1 and Goal 2, curricular offerings being one of them. But this really related to making sure that there's tight alignment between the +1 pathways at high school and middle school. And that's something that's been on our radar for development, and we will continue to work on that over the coming years to make sure that there's connectivity between the two programs. The other comments that were popular were expansion of those programs into like computer science and other programs like that. Grading and attendance, I think I already kind of referenced this a little bit earlier, but grading and attendance was also mentioned as it relates to future ready graduates. Very specifically in this one, making sure that students are attending on a regular basis and making sure that our policies and procedures encourage students to regularly attend school. And then there were several comments related to not understanding how the grading practices actually work in terms of providing opportunities for student growth and student progress reports to parents. Communication, again, came up in this question. This was very similar to the one that was in Goal 1. Both parents and teachers want each other to communicate with them more frequently. And so that's something that we will continue to work on with our buildings, and our parents will ask them to continue to help us with at home, is making sure that we have good, strong two-way communication between classrooms and families. The fourth one was really around student advisement, and this ranged from the use of counseling services in our high schools to college and career planning that happens in our elementary, middle, and high schools, to the use of our advisement programs at high school. All really themed around this same idea of making sure that students and families have access to high-quality information that provides their students with good counseling and information to make that next step, whether that's moving on to the next year in school or moving on to a post-secondary choice. And the last one was really a suggestion around Early College Academy. Of course, that's our program at Iowa Western Community College that allows current juniors and seniors to spend all day on the campus and earn an associate's degree while still in high school at no cost to them. We currently offer that to 25 juniors and 25 seniors annually. And what was most frequently suggested in the thought exchange is that that program should be expanded to offer opportunities for more students, which is something that we would love to do. Should we have a funding stream that would enable that to happen, that we would certainly entertain that idea. So those were the suggestions for Goal 1 and Goal 2. And now Mr. Wilson will provide an update around the question on Goal 3.
Thank you, Dr. Horthman. Now that our buildings have been renovated, what areas of facility improvement or renovation would you as the community like to see done in the next 5 years? Okay. We had 232 participants, 90 staff members, 143 community members, had 149 thoughts and ratings of just over 2,900. The first item was the gym space. They talked about better parking at the elementary buildings for the gym areas when they pick up the kids. Some schools have an adequate space for PE, forcing them to use the hallways. That particular one was done for COVID reasons and social distancing. We're not doing that anymore at this point. And then the last one about high school should have an indoor practice facility when it's too hot or too cold for practice. That is something that some school districts around the state have done. We would love to do that if we can find a funding stream to help us with that, and also a place where we could hold such activities. The district does partner with the field house and the soccer complex for activities, so we do have kind of a quasi way of doing that, but for right now, nothing on our own. The next item had to do with cleaning and windows. And the second one there about repair leaky roofs and leaks that could come into the classroom and cause mold. We are not aware of any leaking roofs at this time, nor are we aware of any mold issues. And I can assure you that if there was either one of those, we would definitely address that immediately, because that would not be a very healthy environment for our students or our staff. The next item are the parking lots. So we have 4 elementary buildings which are basically landlocked: Rue, Roosevelt, Edison, and Longfellow. And they're talking about finding additional ways to find parking. As I said, they're landlocked by houses around there, so that opportunity would be a tough nut to crack if we would, in order to provide more parking there. They claim that parking at elementary buildings is unsafe. We do have crossing guards, and we do have staff who sit out there and watch the kids as they're going. But we can definitely relook at that and see what improvements we can make. And lastly, buildings. I was actually a bit encouraged by this, because we did not get anyone saying that, this is in great disrepair or something. We have a master facility plan. It's a 5-year plan that we've identified. We've had engineers and architects go out and look at our systems inside the building: air conditioners, electrical, plumbing. And then we had a group look at the outside the building for roofs and windows and whatever. So we developed a master facility plan for that reason. And I can tell you that there are some improvements that we can make, but there's nothing that is shoddy or in very poor shape at this time. They also talked here about installing bottle fillers. We have installed bottle fillers at every one of our buildings, a number of them, and we feel that the bottle fillers we have now are adequate to meet the demand of staff and students. And then when it said build a trade school, as Dr. Vorthman pointed out, we have the TradeWorks Academy, the TradeWorks, that we have a trade school, and we also have it in conjunction with Iowa West. So with that, to talk about social and emotional learning, I would introduce Mr. Tim Hamilton.
Thank you. So for goal 4, we asked, what additional strategies should the district consider to meet the mental health needs of students? We had 244 total participants. 94 of those were staff member and 150 were parents. 192 different thoughts and just over 3,800 ratings. So the first theme that came to mind was social emotional learning. You could see the comments there. We are excited about this, and I'm glad that this is on here, because we are working with our MTSS team with social emotional learning to make that curriculum part of everyday life with kids, and really looking at a scope and sequence using the standards from the state. We also use that in our training with our teachers when we do the Classroom 180 trainings and the trauma trainings with them as well. The next theme was student support. Generally, this was around having staff members or having additional staff members, smaller class sizes, local mental health facilities. Again, this is something that we look at every single year. In the last few years, we've added student and family advocates to our elementary schools. We've moved some counselor positions around to best meet the needs of kids based upon numbers and the need. And with the addition of some behavior consultants, this is something that every year we will continue to look at and analyze to see what the needs of our students are. And I also want to add one thing. We do partner with community sponsors or community people to provide mental health services for kids in our classes as well, school-based therapy. And the last piece that was brought up by our people taking their survey was bullying. Pay more attention to students that are bullied, do more against bullies, and be more proactive against bullies. Again, we feel like this need will never go away. There's always going to be issues with students that we need to address, and we need to teach them different ways. Working with our SEL and doing SEL with our students, providing trauma training, Classroom 180, really working on the student-to-student relationship. We feel like we'll address this, and also we work continuously on the investigation process for bullying and then any code of conduct use that comes out of it. At this time, I will welcome back Dr. Murillo for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. So as you can see, the thought exchange really provided us some insight to the 4 goals that we're currently working on. We will take this information as we revisit those goals this summer, bring back our goals for the next 4 years or the next 3 years, our strategic goals. It's really important to us that we have the voice of our parents and our community and our staff around the work that we're doing. And I think that you saw some really good themes come out that we can really take hold of and do some deeper dive into. And so it's not a traditional survey. So as you saw, it is one that takes a little bit of time. A traditional survey was we would ask the questions we wanted answers to or a response to. This allows our community to bring their thoughts forward. So we really appreciate everyone that spent the time taking the survey, and we will use this information. It's really good to have. So Mr. LaFurla, we'll now turn it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your time on the presentation. Diane, did we have any questions come in?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So I guess I would just, while we're waiting on questions, and there are a couple of school community members here, so if you don't, I encourage you to submit your questions, but if you don't have any questions, I guess I would just maybe ask you if there were programs that you heard about tonight that you're not familiar with, or schools like to use a lot of acronyms, so if you heard an acronym that confused you, or if you'd like more clarity around the goals, I would encourage you to ask even some of those very generalized questions if you don't have something so specific that you'd like to learn about. The board is here, but the real people that are doing all of the work, Dr. Murillo and her team, are here, your captive audience. So I would encourage you to find some questions, and Dr. Murillo, if there's anything you want to add, or board members, I would invite you. If there are statements or other things that you'd like to make, please do.
I thought maybe I'd put the 4 goals back up.
Perfect.
And
Yeah,
that would
that's a
help a
good
little
idea.
bit. Do you want me to kind of highlight a few things while we wait, or would you like board members to kind of talk about the goals?
I think it would be a good idea to maybe provide a little bit more
Okay.
clarity around each goal.
Sure. So when we looked at the academic achievement, one thing that we really wanted to do, when we got to 4 goals, we really wanted to really simplify and be more focused around our goals. And so academic achievement is really important to us. Underneath that, we talk about our action steps to get to at least 80% of our students proficient. And as you all know, if you have children in the district, that we use the MAP assessment to really monitor and progress monitor how our students are doing, and we give that assessment 3 times a year. And then we have the state assessment at the end of the year also. So really looking at academic achievement really goes around high quality core instruction, what we do for our supplemental resources that we use during the intervention, class-wide intervention, and then how do we monitor, how do we know how well we're doing in the schools with the instruction and how we're servicing every student. And we really want to go from knowing where our classes as a whole down to individual students, how each individual student is doing. And so that was really critical to us, to have not only a system in place, but a way that we can continue to work through that system. And even our principals come in after each assessment, so they come in quarterly to talk about the data in their building and the work that they're doing and how that aligns to their school improvement plan. So there's a lot of work that goes on around the academic achievement. The guaranteeing all graduates are future ready. We really wanted to take a deep dive into creating the Diploma Plus pathways. It is a vision of ours that every student graduates with a high school diploma and a second credential. And that provides equity. That provides opportunities for all of our students. So we're super excited about guaranteeing all of our students are future ready. And then it was a goal of mine to have a master facility plan. We have some beautiful buildings. And I wanted to make sure that we had a plan to ensure that those buildings stayed at the top I wanted to ensure that we didn't let a roof go, a leak go, a boiler system, HVAC. I wanted to make sure that we kept them at that high level that they have been, because all of the elementary schools have been renovated, all of the high schools have been renovated. It was our 2 middle schools that were left. But we don't want to renovate and walk away and not have a plan to sustain those renovations. And then the last one, the social and emotional wellness, that is something that everyone across the nation is working to improve and provide those services for our students. So that has become one area that we have really championed. We started with online Trauma Inform, and from that online professional development, our schools were able then to tailor that to really fit into what was best for their schools. And the principal worked with the teachers, and it wasn't a top-down. They really could work through those modules. And this year we shifted over to Classroom 180, which now provides the framework for what they learned in the online modules. So it's some work that we've been doing. We know it's about relationships. We know it's about helping our teachers understand while we build the relationships with our students. So that kind of takes you a little deeper dive around the 4 goals and the work that we're doing. So Mr. LaFerla, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Mellon. We do have a question here. What resources are utilized in the community for family support to increase access for at-risk kids?
You know, we work with to increase access for kids, we work with our Green Hills AA with graduation coaches, and really like Dr. Murillo said, when we talk about working with kids and at-risk kids, the best thing that we can do is build relationships with the kids and build relationships with the families. So we do have some other community partners, some therapy agencies that we work with that provide therapy or BHIS services, or we work with Boys Town, who provides an in-home program. So there's several different agencies that we have worked with and continue to work with. It really just depends upon the needs of the students and families.
Thank you, Tim. You might want to stay there. What is the process of referral for families who may not be familiar with community resources or may not seek out counseling and behavioral support services, for instance, because it is cost prohibitive?
Oh, that's a great question. So we train all of our counselors and our student family advocates in the buildings on how to best connect people with community services, from basic needs, from food to all the way to therapy. And really our partners that we work with, they know that if a family can't afford something, that's never an issue. We sign agreements with all of them that they provide services pro bono if needed.
So how would they access that? You don't have to step out. Tim, how would they be able to access that right to have pro bono?
Yeah, so really that works directly through my office and the counselors in the building, student family advocates, SAMs, depending upon the building. There's people trained in each building to access those. Generally, I would recommend if someone's looking for some extra assistance, the school counselor is probably the best place to go, and I'll be able to work with them to provide those.
And then the last question, how can this process be made more collaborative?
We continue to build partnerships. I would say that if we are very lucky in this community, and coming from a school district before I came here, one of the main things that drew me to Council Bluffs Schools was the partnerships that they had within the community. And we're talking whether it's with athletic fields or therapists, or we have food pantries that are set up by local partners. So I guess to answer that question is we always have staff that are looking to do that, but if somebody is looking to partner with the school district, I would encourage them to call me and I can help with that.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions, Diane? I guess I would open up for board members if you'd like to jump in and offer anything.
I just want to echo what Mr. Hamilton just said about the resources that the district does currently have. And it's pretty phenomenal that the community partnerships that have been developed over the years and over the last year with the pandemic, mental health, food inequities, those resources are very stretched just because of the pandemic in of itself. But the district is always taking it a step higher and trying to reach those new potentials and being able to make those new relationships. So it's really remarkable to be a student or a family in this district, to be able to be served in those needs when they're there.
And I think it points out that school districts are sort of tasked with doing a lot more than just educating children, and take on those tasks with passion and willingness to jump in and do whatever is best for kids, but definitely cannot do it alone. You know, must have partnerships, must have organizations in the community that are willing to support the work. So. We don't have any more questions, so I think maybe what the best thing to do right now would be to go ahead and adjourn the town hall meeting, and with just such a small number of community members, maybe make this more informal, and we will all stick around. We have another 30 minutes, so if there are one-on-one conversations that you'd like to have with administrators about a specific program, or a concern that you have that you'd like to talk to a board member about, maybe we can do it that way.
Yeah, could I also introduce the cabinet members so they know who does
Absolutely,
what?
please do.
I have Chief of Elementary Schools. If you have a question about elementary schools, Mark Schultz. Chief of Secondary Schools, Ms. Julie Smith. My Chief of HR, Mr. Gary Milborn. And my Chief Communication, Ms. Diana Ostrowski. I think I got everyone. And Chief Technology Officer, Mr. John Stile. So that would kind of get you connected to someone if you had a specific question about elementary, secondary, technology, student support, or any of our academic programs.
Very good, thank you. So you're outnumbered, but we are all very nice, and we want to be here for you and to help and provide information. So thank you all for being here tonight. As Dr. Murillo mentioned before, this is part of the process of collecting feedback and information on the strategic goals as we move into the work of reevaluating those goals and perhaps setting new goals for the next several years. So we will stick around, and with that, we are adjourned.